The crypt of the St. Mark's Basilica, under more than a meter of water. The church, one of Venice's most iconic landmarks, is among the worst hit by the flooding. On Wednesday evening, water levels had gone down, but locals remained on the alert. Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte rushed to the city to assess the situation. His government will swiftly decide whether to accept the regional governor's appeal and declare a state of emergency.
At
this stage, I don't see any reason not to declare a state of emergency and begin allocating funds immediately.
Local authorities estimate that more than 85% of the city was inundated in the past days. High winds and heavy rain drove the water level to almost 190 centimeters. It hadn't been this bad since 1966. Mayor Luigi Brugnaro blamed climate change for the extreme weather and said Venice was on its knees. There is also plenty of anger here. The Mose, an undersea barrier system aimed at protecting Venice from high water, has faced constant delays since construction began in 2003.
For the Mose, they've been on it for 10 years, but they've done nothing. It's in total neglect. It doesn't work, and they've stolen €6 billion. In Italy, unfortunately, that's the way it is. Our politicians are all thieves. They should all be in jail.
As locals take in the aftermath, city officials say the damage could total hundreds of millions of euros.
Julia Sardelli, is in Venice for us and assessing the damage. Julia, what's the situation in the city this morning?
Well, this morning we were woken by an alarm, a high tide alarm. In fact, we are here in St. Mark's Square. You can see behind me, the tide is rising again. They expect to have a new high tide, this time around 130 centimeters, so lower than the record-breaking tide, around 11 this morning. But life is going on as normal. A lot of tourists here taking pictures in their rubber boots. People here in the city, Venetians, are assessing the damage. They're cleaning up their shops. They're cleaning up their homes. Hotels have been affected. Cafes have been affected. So people are sort of trying to figure out how much damage has happened, how to go on in the next few weeks, but they're also bracing for some upcoming bad weather that is going to happen tomorrow and Saturday.
Now, I understand, Julia, that even St. Mark's Basilica, which I believe is in the background there, the city's famous landmark, it's been flooded too. How bad is the damage there?
Yes, the Basilica has been flooded. On the Tuesday night, water entered the Basilica, crept down into the crypt, and it flooded it completely. It also flooded the main floor of the Basilica, which is covered in marble and mosaics. Now, it's hard to assess the damage quite yet because experts have to wait for the water to drain and to then conduct in-depth investigations. The problem is that even once the water dries, it's salty water. So the water will evaporate, but salt will remain, and that can really, really damage the structures.
Well, you know, I thought that Venice already had a flood protection system, I must admit. What's the story there? Why is it not ready?
So construction of the Mose, that's the name of the protection system, was meant to be finished in 2014. It began in 2003. It went on slowly. It was filled with controversy and scandal. In fact, in 2014, this system of barriers that was meant to stop the high tide was investigated for corruption, and corruption ties were found in the construction of the barriers. It should be completed now in 2021, but work is slow, and a lot of Venetians are upset that this hasn't been completed yet, and they're asking why that hasn't happened.
Julia, what are the chances that Venice will continue to face flooding, will face more flooding moving forward?
Well, definitely a lot of people are now talking about climate change as being a factor in rising waters here in Venice. The mayor, Luigi Brugnaro, mentioned climate change as a direct factor that caused the high tide yesterday. And activists are also talking about the influence of climate change. So definitely, if there is a link there, there is a risk that events like this will continue to happen. And especially if there is not a protection system in place, there is definitely a risk that this could happen again.
Giulia, thank you very much. Giulia Sardelli there for us in Venice.